The Legend of Zelda has struggled to evolve over the last decade. It's used the same format since 1991, building on top of A Link to the Past during the birth and evolution of 3D game design. But after 3 entries on 3D home consoles, some began to take notice of the series beginning to drag its feet. Twilight Princess was criticized for feeling dated. Skyward Sword, while featuring unique elements, never quite went far enough to feel like a true departure. The most ambitious steps ended up coming from a non-console entry, A Link Between Worlds. Its open-ended design clearly showed Nintendo's interest in where they wanted to take the franchise, though its dungeons suffered from the unpredictability of the player's capabilities. Breath of the Wild is the furthest leap in the series in almost 20 years. While not the Skyrim-like Zelda more mainstream audiences had been asking for, its vast and colorful lands are filled with things to do and find. It fully embraces open-world game design and, in some ways, leaves its own mark. The climbing mechanics add new meaning to go anywhere, while fully intertwined cause and effect mechanics create seemingly limitless possibilities to pen your own adventure with. At the surface, the game seemingly comes together in every way. Yet the deeper you go into Breath of the Wild, the clearer it becomes Nintendo is still struggling to nail down exactly what Zelda should be. Being Nintendo's first modern open-world game, Breath of the Wild gets a surprising number of things right. The world is packed with things to do, and while you won't always discover something in every nook and cranny, even finding a new viewpoint to see the world can be extremely valuable. The developers did a fantastic job of using small visual cues to lead the player to certain locations. This reduces the user interface to only the essentials. Standard environmental objects around the world, like rocks, trees, or logs, are often placed in peculiar patterns or notable locations to easily identify tasks to complete. It can be as elaborate as a makeshift golf course on a hill, or as simple as leaving a single rock at the peak of a mountain. It's rare that there's ever a question of what should be done at these points, making them quick landmarks to hit while moving from one location to the next. After learning to identify these elements, there's a constant pull in every direction to tackle the next one. The problem is the lack of diversity. While it's easy to identify tasks on the overworld, you can almost guarantee solving one is as simple as lifting something up, pushing it, traveling to a nearby location, or one of a handful of other menial tasks. There's little satisfaction after being asked to essentially solve the same puzzles through the entire experience. Major enemy encampments are often housed in massive stone-like skulls or cobbled together wooden towers. They're a challenge to a fragile Link at the beginning of the game, though once you've tackled one, there are no surprises. They all seem to consist of varying difficulties of bokoblins, moblins, and occasionally Lizalfos. While these combat challenges are rarely unique, the environments around these locations can inform the player's initial approach. Shrines, which are essentially one-room dungeons, are strewn throughout the world. A piercing neon orange glow makes even the most obscured or distant ones quick to identify. They're the most unique activity and the main draw early on. Entering the first shrines can be a fantastic surprise since you're not quite sure what awaits inside. These can be challenging battles, more traditional room-based dungeons, or a single elaborate puzzle. After some time though, they start to lose their luster. Breath of the Wild gives everything up front, the ability to use bombs, move metal with a magnet, freeze an object in time to store momentum, and create ice blocks out of the water. Outside of Link's sword and bow, these are the only tools the developers have to work with, and because almost any puzzle can be the first encounter of that type, they all tend to aim at the lowest common denominator in terms of challenge. The same problem exists within the 4 main dungeons of the game, the Divine Beasts. There's one unique gimmick to these dungeons shared between them all. While the implementation is slightly different per dungeon, they all boil down to essentially moving or rotating parts of each dungeon. They don't feel unique from either a challenge or a visual perspective, nor do they ramp up in difficulty. After the first 24 shrines and a couple of divine beasts, the magic wears off. The shrines only last a few minutes, and the divine beasts, while multi-layered, are compact and simplistic in their execution. As soon as you start feeling the puzzle-solving groove, it's back to the mindless overworld puzzles. There are other external shrine challenges as well that pits Link against an outdoor challenge, yet even some of these start to repeat themselves, as you come across multiple mazes throughout Hyrule with essentially the same structure. At the very least, completing each Divine Beast unlocks new skills that do make the game easier, but they're more for convenience than essential to the game's design. That being said, almost every other reward in the game regurgitates the same treasures non-stop. The player is pummeled with weapons that are often negligible in damage variance, funneled items for cooking elixirs or foods that are often unnecessary, and suffocated in materials for quests or shops that may never be found in a playthrough. Probably the most valuable treasure are the arrows, which are a hot asset for a good chunk of the game. If I had to throw out some random numbers with no factual basis whatsoever, I'd say 80% of the chests are weapons that are more of a hassle to toss over and over and over again than they are worth taking. The rest is like 15% materials, 4% consumables, and the remaining 1%, if not less of that, are clothing items, which probably are the best reward since they have some sort of modifier that they give to Link. However, most are often situational and placed in seemingly random locations that it's hard to lean on them as satisfying rewards. Then there are the Kaurav Seeds, spread throughout the world, 900 of them to be exact. They are intended to increase inventory slots, yet their effect is negated as the player burns through weapons at a slower rate than finding them, so it never actually does away with the inconveniences of constant inventory management. No matter how big the inventory, you will fill it up, and then you'll toss, and you'll toss, and you'll toss, and you'll toss, and toss again. Eventually, I stopped turning in Kaurav Seeds altogether. There was really no point, despite the seeds' heavy presence as a reward in the overworld. The most consistently useful rewards are the Shrine Orbs, which are obtained from completing each shrine. Collecting 4 will let you gain a heart or more stamina. They're probably the most valuable upgrades, just not very exciting. The ultimate point kind of comes to, while the developers did a fantastic job of creating a huge detailed world, the content and rewards aren't enough to back it up. Spending even a reasonable amount of time poking around each area reveals the same patterns of puzzles. It's a shame because finding that content is amazingly easy given the limited interface. Based off the enjoyment I've seen other people have with Breath of the Wild, I think it's a game less about what you're doing and more about how you're doing it. It's a lot like Grand Theft Auto, where you can display it like a normal video game, but it's the experimentation, reaction, and in some ways unpredictability that really make the game shine. Simply doing what needs to be done makes the game fall apart, and I'm kind of that guy who takes the most straightforward approach. Most of my time in Breath of the Wild was spent wailing on enemies and then moving on, with little examination of how the mechanics and world twist into each other. I would say the less you pay attention to the game, the better it gets. Zoning out to a podcast while mindlessly running through Hyrule is a fun way to kill time. Depending on who you are, that could be a positive or a negative if that's the case. But if you really just want to sink hours and hours of time into a game, this is a good one to do that. It's hard to say where Nintendo should go from here. To build upon Breath of the Wild, I'd say ultimately the game's scope needs to be reduced to prevent this overexertion of ideas. Sometimes I wonder if it would be better to go even further beyond that. Abandon what's left of the previous traditions and focus entirely on building a diverse world seamlessly crafted into one big adventure with a more elaborate character progression system. Maybe something like Skyrim would make the most sense. And honestly, I don't think I personally even want either of those directions. While Zelda's overworld suffered in some of the later releases in the 2000s, I'd say the dungeon design is what's been plummeting the most. If their intention is to continue to focus on overworlds as the main play space, they probably need to cut off the bits being dragged into Breath of the Wild by the Zelda name.